The Kentucky case is just the latest example of how religious freedom is quickly becoming a casualty of same-sex marriage. Ryan Anderson of the Heritage Foundation has written a book about gay activists' attempts to crush their opponents. Paul Strand has more.
Since the Supreme Court ruled gay marriage is now legal across the U.S., some activists are trying to make some opposition to same-sex marriage itself illegal.
For years, those campaigning for same-sex marriage said there was no way it could hurt their opponents or believers in traditional marriage. But now, here's a book claiming that that harm is already being seen.
It's Truth Overruled, The Future of Marriage and Religious Freedom, from Ryan Anderson of the Heritage Foundation.
The main rhetoric that we've heard from the past decade from those in favor of redefining marriage was that if you're against same-sex marriage, you're just like the racist bigots who were against interracial marriage. And we're already seeing voices say the government should now treat people who believe marriage is the union of a man and a woman as if they're racists.
And Anderson looks at business owners already being punished for not actively supporting gay marriage, or at least serving gay couples.
The fourth chapter of the book's titled Bake Me a Cake, Bigot, and it tells the story of all of these professionals who simply asked to be left alone from the government, by the government, to run their business in accordance with their beliefs. And they've been fined sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Eric Erickson, editor-in-chief of the popular Red State blog, says the fact that Anderson is clearly young is striking and meaningful.
Younger, which is counterintuitive because people perceive it as being a generational issue. So here's this young guy who has a mastery of these issues and the implications for the future of the country.
Anderson says his fight to punish people is a serious threat to freedom. He says he actually doesn't know what he'd advise a person trying to decide to bake or not bake a gay wedding cake.
The government's role shouldn't be telling them what to do either. So my position on this is whether you would bake the cake or not isn't a reason for you telling someone else that they should have to bake the cake. Freedom should actually be what's reigning supreme here. And the people who are in favor of baking the cake can bake the cake. Those who aren't cannot bake the cake. And the market can sort these things out. It's one of the beauties of freedom.
Even before it was published, Erickson says gay rights activists orchestrated a campaign on Amazon.com to destroy Truth Overruled. He said on RedState.com that such folks won't tolerate any opposition to gay marriage. Erickson wrote they cannot have that. They also cannot have books and data that dispute their claims.
The fact that they've attacked his book on Amazon, trying to discourage people from buying it. Before it even came out, they were trying to drive down its ranking on Amazon so people wouldn't buy it. Just tells you everything you need to know about the contents of the book.
Although it's difficult to say which criticisms are legitimate disagreements and which are orchestrated, clearly many people took strong shots at the book. Some of the critics on Amazon wrote, "This is a sad and desperate book written by a sad and desperate man clutching at any straw that will enable him to justify what in the end is simply homophobia." And, "It really is time for you religious zealots to move on." One writer even defended the way opponents are so obviously showing intolerance, saying, "Tolerance in and of itself is not a virtue. I am intolerant of a lot of things, like racism, sexism, and homophobia."
It was people who didn't even want a dissenting voice to be heard. And so they were trying to sink the book by leaving these, many of them were nasty reviews. One review went up with a picture of Holocaust victims, saying that this book was the functional equivalent of Nazi propaganda.
But the young author isn't a bit surprised at the tactics used against him.
The left didn't win this debate by convincing people of the goodness of redefining marriage. It won this debate by silencing people and then getting the courts to overrule the people.
But the campaign doesn't seem to be working. Supporters of the book still far outnumber its attackers.
Advocates for traditional marriage believe just because the court has ruled against their position doesn't mean truth has actually changed. And no amount of shouting it down is going to change that. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.